Welcome to our first tutorial for our watercolor techniques. We're going to be starting off with the most important technique, and that is a flat wash. I started with a little bit of paint on my paintbrush there, and I am just going slowly in the same direction, trying to keep the level of pigment the same in each stroke. We are not trying for any kind of gradient here. The goal is an opaque wash here. You can start to work in value scales with washes by adding a little bit of water to your color. So you will see next here that I start adding a bit of water to my blue to create a slightly lighter blue wash underneath. But yes, I am still doing the same technique of a flat wash. You notice that I created this lighter color simply by adding water to my palette. So when we are working in watercolors, water is truly our best friend to create a rich variety of colors that we can play with. I continued my exploration here by adding a little bit more water to my color. I wasn't super happy with how it turned out as it got a little bit too pale, but that's the beautiful thing about watercolor is sometimes we make mistakes. It has its own imagination and we have to still go with the flow. So this is an extremely important technique, one that you can work hard in your sketchbooks during some exploration time as well. Moving on, we have the graded wash here. So I start out in the same way with a little bit of water on my paintbrush. The difference here is that we are not adding any more paint to our paintbrush. We are simply doing a little bit of water with every stroke. So I go back into my water, dab the water off on the edge of my bowl, and try and pull the pigment down as much as I can. Here we are, of course, looking for a gradient. This is not always the easiest technique to pull off, and it is a lot of trial and error. So I didn't stretch my paper here, which made my graded wash a little bit more tricky to achieve easily as I was just in my watercolor sketchbook. You can go back over to try and blend the water together to create your gradient if you would like as well. So here I was adding a little bit more to the top. You can definitely use this thirsty brush technique, which will certainly help get some of the extra water if you do not want a bloom effect, like we see happened on my second wash there, the blooms of water, which creates something really interesting, but it is not always what you want in your composition. These were the first 3 basic watercolor techniques. Stay tuned for part 2.